I'm John Rodgers from over at Cuyahoga Falls, and today we're going to be talking about Iceland. Iceland is a republic, and it has a population of about 305,000, not counting the sheep. It's about the size of Virginia. Now look at this map of the world, and we're talking about that tiny little spot in the ocean right up there by Greenland. This is Europe over here. As a matter of fact, Iceland is considered part of Europe, and of course we're way down over here, so it's quite a bit further north than we are. Most of the descendants are of Norwegian and Celtic background, and the language is Icelandic, and the country is mostly Lutheran. Education is compulsory until 16, and it has an attendance rate of a fantastic 99%, and the literacy rate of Iceland is 99.9%. Boy, that is really high. This is where we're going to fly into Reykjavik here. That is the big city. As a matter of fact, 60% of the people in Iceland live around, in and around Reykjavik. And then we're going out here. This is where two of the tectonic plates of the world come together. And then we're coming back out, and we'll follow this route all the way around back to Reykjavik. Incidentally, this glacier is the largest glacier in Europe. It covers quite a bit of territory there. And when I talk about going south and not hitting anything until Antarctica, we will be right out in this area. We'll get to that in a moment. The first permanent settlement here was 1874 AD, and it was by the Vikings. Now our trip was about 1,300 miles in Iceland. We went into 15 of those towns. Some were very, very small. But this one that we are in now, this little marina, this is not small. This is in Reykjavik, a population of 115,000. It's been the capital since 1918. And this is the great church in the back. These Icelandic names are really hard to work out, but that is the great Lutheran Cathedral in Reykjavik. And this is the Hofda. This is the site of the Ronald Reagan Gorbachev summit meeting in 1988. And this was the start of the bringing down of the Iron Curtain, and especially the Berlin Wall. Now you will hear about hot water and steam and everything, which are natural because this is a volcanic island. I didn't tell you, it's 2,600 miles to New York and 520 miles the other way over to Scotland. But there's a lot of volcanic activity, and they use it. This is a hot water heated swimming pool, heated by steam. One of the city streets, now this is right by the great church, and then turning the other way, I took the picture of the church and the statue of Leif Erikson. And that statue of Leif Erikson in front of the church was given by the United States to Iceland on the 1,000th anniversary of Parliament. They have the oldest parliament in the world, and I will show you in a moment where that came to be. Now inside the church is fairly dark, but not too bad from some standpoints. And then there are three views outside that I wanted to show you. Well, this one is right not far from the church. But now for the other three views, we go up on a hill. Not that the church isn't pretty high, but we go up on another hill and then see three views of Reykjavik, one of which is that church. There it is over in the background. And then after this view, now we're going out into the countryside, and you're going to see some of the steam and pipelines and all that sort of thing. Pipelines and all of the homes and businesses in Iceland, well, I shouldn't say all, almost all, are heated by steam generated by volcanic activity and piped in then, sometimes as steam, sometimes as hot water, into the city and the little towns and so forth. Now this little scene, this is vegetation coming back on top of a lava flow from volcanic activity. And lakes and mountains, you're going to see a number of those today. Lakes and mountains and sheep. There's those sheep again. Lakes and mountains, lakes and mountains. And then here's more lava and grass. And if you see those couple of spots in the middle of the picture, those are birds. Because birds like this kind of area too. We have come now out in the countryside to a place called Thingvellir National Park. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we will see two things here. We will see the assembly plains where the Parliament came into being, but we will also see where the North American tectonic plate hits the European plate. And actually we're looking at it, but let's move on in and we can see it a little better. This is one of the few places in the world where the plates come above ground. This is the North American plate, and there's some area in here in between the two plates that I'll show you in just a moment. But we're right on the North American. See, it comes right up to there, and we walk down in through that area. This is very geologically, this is almost never seen. There's a little church down there, because remember, this is where a lot of stuff started for Iceland. Little church, and you're able to park back up in here and walk back into this, and you can walk on to the tectonic plate of North America. Now, if you look from that North American plate over here, that line and that line mark the European plate as it comes. And then over, you maybe are familiar with the fact that the rubbing of these plates and one going under the other and so forth cause tremendous violent activity, especially out in the Pacific, cause some of the earthquakes, and the earthquakes generating tsunamis. So to see it here on bare land is really something. And here's the North American plate here alongside of us. That's part of our group. We were with a young lady, and boy, she knew her Iceland and loved it. So we had a good tour with her. Now, where that flag is the place where Iceland had a, I guess an assembly is what you would call it, and that is where the Parliament came into being 1,000 years ago. Just absolutely fantastic. The oldest parliament in the world. Iceland was settled, I'm going to hold it on that flag for a minute. Iceland was settled in the 9th and early 10th centuries. Ruling chiefs came together at this spot, an assembly called Alþingi, the oldest parliament in the world. And then, moving on ahead, in 1918, Iceland became a sovereign state under the Danish crown. Remember, it's part of Europe. But on June 18, 1944, it established itself as an independent republic. And that present constitution goes back to 1874. And now we will be in that same area, but looking at some of the scenery rather than the history at this moment. We even get to see some geese that are walking around up there. It's a nice little golden flower. And right by where the Parliament was founded are these cascades, and it's just a beautiful little area. And here are those geese I was telling you about. They're just walking around. They don't know how historic this place is. And there, up on the hill, that's where the Parliament was first formed. That's where the Assembly was. And right on behind it is where the tectonic plate of North America comes. We're still in that area, and then we're gonna look at the scenery, and then we're going to our first big waterfall. We have moved away from that area now. That's a glacier back behind those peaks. And this whole part behind those peaks, that's a glacier in there. And then look at this waterfall. This is Gullfoss Falls. Just fantastic. I have 5 pictures of it so you get to see how it comes in and goes over, comes inside, and the waterfall is off to the side of the stream coming. And it is magnificent, and the roar of it is really terrific. Now that's a glacier. That's a close-up of one of the glaciers I showed you from a long range. The white and the glacier is behind the rocks over there, and the white in the middle of the picture is cotton grass. We'll see cotton grass some more later, but if you really want to see cotton grass, you got to go up to Alaska. Now, 5 pictures of the geyser area. Yes, they have a geyser area in Iceland. We have a bigger one down over at Yellowstone, and then the other main geysers in the world are down in New Zealand. But this is the geyser area, and that's it erupting, and you see all the people around. And then these are views of different kind of hot springs and so forth, right in that same geyser area. We watched the geyser go twice. I don't remember how often this geyser goes, but they are pretty regular, not overly, but pretty. And then very close by are horses. Now we're going into a horse farm in a moment, but they have Icelandic horses, and I'm not a horse expert, but this is a horse that has what I'm told is a 5th gait, a slower gait than horses elsewhere. They also raise flowers, which they sell in Reykjavik, and they are bombarded a little bit by the great flower resources of the Netherlands, but they do okay here, and so we're going to be in the greenhouse here for a little bit and see what they're raising. But they told me all of it is sold. Their economy is about 46 billion dollars, and they at this time are in real trouble, just like the United States is in real trouble. And for the future, this year is 2009 that we're doing this. So all of those get to be sold in Reykjavik. How do you like that rose? That's a neat one. We're going on to a little church in the country. Now, a lot of the when I say little church in the country, a lot of those are sod churches that have been around. They're Lutheran, but they're sod churches, and they've been around for a long time. And this is inside of it, and now look at the church from the outside. This is not a sod one. We will see those in a minute, but this is a fairly old one. And close by you have these guys, cattle. We'll see a number of churches before we get through, and a number of homes that are of sod buildings. We're in the little town of Olflusha now. I don't even try and pronounce all of these towns, but I think that one is right. This is the bridge in the river, and here very close by on this side we're walking around, and it's a large fish carving, and then close by is an old graveyard. Yes, it is kind of old. And then strange geological formations after we get past the river here. And these are right up by the bridge. Just strange little holes. There are geological formations, small circular pots. I'm reading this from a note that I wrote down. They're 3 to 6 feet in diameter. Traces of large bubbles of gas which came up in molten lava. Walls cooled and the bubble burst at the surface. They're listed in the Icelandic Nature Conservation Register. The lava here that you're looking at is about 8,700 years old. And this area is the Earth's largest lava flow since the Ice Age. And we are on the western edge of that flow. And that's that same church that we looked at before that had the graveyard and so forth. Now we're coming to the horse farm that I told you about. The mountains and the clouds over. We have actually parked the van at this point, and I'm taking these standing outside from that horse farm. That's a glacier back over there. Not the upper peaks, down in the lower part in here is glacier. Now this horse is one of the Icelandic horses, and that's an 8-year-old girl. Her parents apparently own this place, but she is quite a rider. And then here's another one, he's just trotting along. And then we have, they did a show for us inside, but almost impossible to take pictures of. But those are 3 of the people, the young girl on this side, those are 3 of the people that took part. But here are some of the horses outside. And I talked to this girl and her horse, and she says, yes, I do have a special feel for this one, and the horse apparently has a special feel for her. She's really good. Notice how somebody has braided the horse. Okay, and we're going to look at that glacier again. It's down in through here. You can only see the top of it a little bit, but it's a pretty good size glacier. And there's that mountain again. And here's the top of it with that snow on it. Here's one that really goes up. And then a waterfall. Whoops. I'm early on the waterfall. Ah, there's the waterfall. Now you could actually walk behind this, and I did, but I like it better from out here. It's nice. And then after we left that waterfall, and boy, the water was really coming down. You can see a couple of people behind the waterfall right there. I took pictures there, but I didn't like them. I like this one, and you can see some of the people over in that little area that are just coming around. And this is the stream going off of that waterfall. Always those old mountains over there. They have the glaciers and they have the volcanoes. They can go hot and cold. And there's some of those Icelandic horses. This very special breed of horse. If you have perfected a horse and it is winning all kinds of awards and maybe even races, you can take it over to Europe and do the same thing with it, show it or race it, but you are not allowed to bring it back into Iceland. You have to sell it over there or do something else with it for their own reasons, some of which have to do with health and some of which have to do with genetics. We're into another little settlement, which I believe also has a waterfall. Yes, they have a waterfall. Everybody's got a waterfall here in Iceland, and we're walking over to that one. This is Skogard, and we're going to see a little museum here as well. Boy, the water just thunders in so many places in Iceland that is really a joy to behold. Here's cows, and this is the little settlement where we're going to see a museum. And here's inside, and the guy is explaining to us about some of the tools that are displayed there in the ship models and so forth. And then outside, I mentioned that you would see sod homes. Now, not too far too, but this one close by is stone and sod. And here's inside of them. Beautiful inside, no problem. And then the little church is there. This I got to get to a sod home because I told you we had, a sod church, because I told you we had them. And this is inside the church, and then this is inside the schoolhouse. Very nicely done, and just a neat place. Some of the flowers, and then in one of the homes, and that one is a sod home. Let's see what we got. There, that one really is a sod home, and that's the one we were just in. And there are several other old homes along there that are sod. And then one last picture here. They had some nice old cars in the museum, and this one has a track on the back part of it. Remember, they get snow here. They get lots and lots of snow. Now, we're over by a town called Vik, and we're right on the Atlantic Ocean on the European side of Iceland. And this is a headland with a cave. Actually, it's got two caves, sea stacks, and I'm taking them from inside that cave. And these are basalt columns. These are natural columns, basalt. And this is the headland, 2 caves. We are very close by Katia, one of Iceland's most active volcanoes. It's among the most violent natural upheavals in Alaska was from this one. Huge glacial floods and ash falls when it happened, and it happened in our time. But you can see the 2 caves, and you can see the sea with some of those offshore formations. And that's the only little puffin that you're going to see in here. We have seen many more up by Newfoundland than we saw here in Iceland. But that is a puffin. And that little puffin from where he is, or if we turn and look due south, from this point south, way up here in the northern hemisphere, you would go south and you would hit not even an island, you would hit no land until you hit Antarctica. All ocean, all the way out through there. And then here's the headland again, and the cave. You can see some of that basalt along here in those very formal formations. Now another church. There's a slight reflection here because I'm having to take the picture through the window of the bus, and because we did not stop at that one, but then I swung the other way, and I believe the driver stopped so I could take this picture without reflections. Those are called troll rocks out in the ocean. And this is a big glacier here, and we're going on up north now, and we will be by another waterfall and another church. And this is a formation sculpture with 2 figures carrying a large stone. Boy, that is one heavy thing. And this is the waterfall of the Sisters. We have just walked down from the bus to see it. There's some of the flowers around here. This is called Arctic Angelica herb. We had seen it one time before. And then here is the waterfall. And the church that the sisters, the 2 sisters' name came from is here. And that's a pretty new church, but look at the wall surrounding it. This has been here for ages and ages. I got in my notes, really old. And now another waterfall. These are just fantastic. And then 2 waterfalls here. And this is a chapel that goes back to the 17th century. I told you we were going to see a sod church. That is really a sod church. And here's what it looks like inside. Very nice, very nice. And I took a picture of it from the back, and you can see some of the stones in the cemetery behind the church also in that picture. But here's another one from the front, and I'm up on a little hill looking down at it. And then in the same area, there are other sod-built buildings. A couple of them. A little bit of the galvanized, what they normally call tin, but it's not tin, it's steel, iron, steel. And then there's the house back there, and there's the little church that we went to, and here are some of the other buildings that we have been to see. And look at what's behind them, a high mountain cliff. We're at Scafafell National Park now. There's a huge glacier here. I told you it was, I pointed it out on the map. It's the largest in Europe, and it covers 8% of Iceland. What you're looking at is bluebells. I normally call them the bluebells of Scotland, but I don't know what they call them here. And then a glacier very close up, close up and personal. And then chunks of ice, and just a fantastic jumble. And some of the meltwater and in front of the glacier, little yellow flowers and so forth. A little bit of ice patterns. And a tiny little yellow flower growing in all of this stuff. That's all ice. All ice. Then we went on north some more, and we came to a place called the Ice Lagoon. I saw it called the Glacial Lagoon, and we go out into this on a boat. That is an Arctic tern on the wing there, the bird, and we'll see some more of those, and then I'll tell you a little bit about them. But we are on our boat now, and I have 6 pictures of icebergs taken from the boat. All kinds of shapes and forms and colors, blues and everything else. And then I'll show you a vessel just like what we're in, what we're traveling in. Now that is ancient ice. That blue indicates that it is very concentrated. You don't want to even touch it with your boat because it is murder on hulls. And this is the kind of boat that we were on, and yes, we're open. We're in with life vests and so forth, but it's all open. And then we go on to some more icebergs, and then here's one. If you look down in the down below, that's a seal there, and here's one of those Arctic terns. The reason I make so much about those Arctic terns, here are a bunch of them right at the bridge that we came across as we were reaching the lagoon. And this is a bird that flies about 25,000 miles each year. I don't know where these birds go to. The birds, the Arctic terns of Alaska, go down to the southern tip of South America, and they fly that twice a year. So it's a real bird. They really have to be strong. And here's one last of the icebergs there. And we're in the ships in the harbor at a little town called Hofna, H-O-F-N. And from our room, we could look out and see these glaciers. The next morning, we could look out and see them. We didn't see them the night before, but right from our room, and that's a close of the mountains and the glaciers. Streaming together. Mountains and clouds. And then a pointed mountain, a very sharply pointed mountain. Now we'll go to where the United States was present.